Where does he get those wonderful toys? Here's your look, or re-look, at the NECA Toys Batman '89 Michael Keaton Batman figure. Actually, to be exact, this is the NECA Toys 25th anniversary edition of the 1989 Michael Keaton Batman, which I first reviewed back on January 3rd, 2015. To those viewers that have frequently asked me if I would ever consider going back and review or re-review said figure, rest assured, I'm going to slowly try to go through my older collection of stuff that I've reviewed over the years and give them a brand new review. This one I really did catch my attention because of the recent back and forths about the recasting of Batman after Ben Affleck's departure. I thought to myself, I should go back and review one of my all-time favorite Batman figures. The one from NECA Toys stands rather impressively at 7 inches exactly. And switching that over to centimeters, something of which I didn't do in the initial review of this guy, you're looking at a figure that's standing 17.7 centimeters tall. The figure comes with several accessories. Well, not several accessories, but it does come with a couple of accessories. It comes with his Batarang. I'll flip it around to the other side there. I'm assuming this is the Batarang he opens up, folds open at the beginning of the movie and throws latches around the guy's leg and proceeds to draw him in. You can see that they've tipped or spiked tipped the edges in a silver. Other than that, it's been cast solely in black plastic. That is not as much the exciting side of it. It's got a little bit more of a detailed end of it. So there's the Batarang right there. The other thing that this Batman does come included with is his Grapple Line. There it is right there. And in the film, obviously, this would have detached. He would have had several different things. Camera focus, please. Thank you. Several different things he would have added to the end of the Grapple Line, bolo snares and all the other stuff there. And then this also would have folded inward. Now, this is solely just sculpted plastic, so you're not going to be able to get all of that. But still, to the credit of NECA Toys, they did a bang-up job of adding all the little rivet points. They actually gold tipped and painted the little hook line that comes out from the Grapple Line. Again, just really nice piece. There's even the little bolted hinge there on the one side. So just, again, a really nice representation of the Grapple Line that he has in the film. None of these things actually do attach to Batman's utility belt. They're only solely things that he can hold. The other thing that he comes included with as well is a pair of closed fists. Not the most exciting of things to come included with the figure. Often at times for me, I don't want to dare say like these are throwaway accessories, but really for me I would never display Batman or really any other figure with closed fists. I guess that's not true. If there's certain characters that I would maybe display like they're fighting, you know, where they're looking to swing throw a punch, then maybe I would put them in closed fists. Or if I just want to give them like a powerful kind of arms standing to the side, very strong, powerful museum pose, then maybe I would use the closed fist. Other than that, though, I mean, for smaller figures like this, like the NECA figures versus, say, like Hot Toy figures, for example, I probably would be more inclined to display smaller figures like this with gripping hands all times, so that if I ever want to display the figure with said accessories, I can always do that. Why don't we go ahead and actually, for the sake of doing that, let me show you how those accessories peg into his hand. The Batarang sort of just sits, unfortunately, into his hand like that. Doesn't really stay very well. I mean, it actually works better to your favor if you have the arm angled up, even at a 90 degree or a little less, so that that's sort of helping and aiding you to hold the Batarang. If not for that, it does sit really loose. You know, it just pops, I don't say it pops right out, but it does sit quite loose on the Caped Crusader. And then for the Grapple Line, his hand, as you can see, is kind of held a certain way, like, oh, it should be holding a gun. Well, we can go ahead and add the Grapple Hook there, the Grapple Line. And again, it holds generally pretty well. It, from a front, doesn't look as bad. From the side, it does look like he's holding it awkwardly. But I guess that's an awkwardly shaped grapple gun anyways. I get for the sizing of wanting to make it practically something that could be fitting on his utility belt. They tried to make it a little bit more streamlined and smaller, but it does. I've always begged the question, like, I don't know how that would have been able to propel a zip line. I guess the line would be all in here, but it just seems like a very, very small grapple and very hard to hold grapple gun as well. But there's that also as well. So that's your accessories. FYI also, when I had picked this one up initially, I don't remember if I actually had to source it out on eBay. I know at one point it was frequently available at like Targets and Toys R Us's. I don't think my local areas had it. I feel like I might have even had to order this online, but what it did include was the 89 Batman DVD or Blu-ray of the 89 film. And then it actually had a really nice packaging for this guy. If you want to go back and have a look, because I don't have that packaging anymore, at the initial review, do go easy because those are older reviews. The original packaging harked back to like the original Kenner 89 Batman figures that had like the very famous gold carding to it. I like that they kept that consistent with the newer release. Anyways, whatever the story may be that I'm going to tell or was going to tell about how I came about Batman, the fact is that over the years I've still managed to keep this particular figure. While I've still sold some of my collection off, there are certain key characters, key figures that I really wanted to keep in my collection, and the 89 Batman was really one of those ones for sure. And I'm really glad that I didn't end up selling this guy. I went through totes the other day and sure enough stumbled upon this guy, and just really ever thankful that I decided to to not pull the trigger and sell this guy, because I think I would have been really, really disappointed. Now, this Batman was also released as a quarter scale. Now, you know my feelings about quarter scale. As great as they are and detailed as they are, I like the smaller size. Something that fits better on a shelf. I could put multiples of these. I might have a harder time doing that with quarter scale figures. Having a look at the figure itself, we'll start at the head and then we'll work our way down. Just a fantastic head sculpt of Michael Keaton. Now again, this figure's not super old. It's not from the days of the Cult Classics line, but for a figure that would have been at least, I guess it would be about 5 years almost, 5 years old, it's a really neat representation of Batman, and it does look like Michael Keaton, really from like the jaw, from the nose down, that looks like Michael Keaton, and really the face as a whole looks like Batman. Periodically, you might see me doing this in the course of this review, because I find like the ears, even getting them out of my storage, I find like the ears were kind of sitting inward like this. I just kind of keep straightening them out a bit. Batman naturally has like a bit of a curve in, but certainly not to the point where it should look warped. So do bear with me if I'm just doing that. Some nice texturing done onto the bat suit. You can kind of see like the little, not pock marks, but like little perforations and little indentations of how the mold was pressed out. Even in the film, he actually has some of that. It's not as clean as, say, the Batman Returns suit. Just a great, again, looking head sculpt. Don't think there's anything I would have changed to this. Maybe a battle damage Batman as like an SDC exclusive would have been just fantastic, but this is the only 89 Batman that we got of this scale. And actually, it's also to note as well, for NECA approaching the property, while we have gotten ourselves quarter-scale renditions of Penguin, Catwoman, and Batman, unfortunately none of them, other than the Cape Crusader here, was the only one that really reached a 7-inch market. Hopefully, at some point, we may get ourselves... I don't even know where the licensing stands on this now, with, of course, the various different Batman films, whether we would ever even get an 89 Jack Nicholson Joker, a Michelle Pfeiffer Catwoman, or a Danny DeVito Penguin. I don't know, but I hope we certainly do. The suit itself, first of all, I like the cape. The cape is good material that they used for it. It doesn't quite feel like a velour, but it's a little bit softer than just a regular cotton. It has a little bit of a sheen to it. You can see how it kind of attaches to the undercowl, and kind of very similar to his suit in the movie. Kind of is represented here by pieces. A piece of the back that has the musculature and just the details to his muscle on his back there. And equally so, he's got the same thing on his front torso. So that's pretty accurate to the way it looked in the film. Of course, obviously, they had to put like a cut line there just so that he had, torso articulation, which doesn't move too much. You may feel relegated to kind of doing the Michael Keaton Batman turn as opposed to being able to try to fight and turn the torso. This is also made of a softer plastic. You kind of feel more so of it up here, the softer kind of Up here, it feels like there's nothing really underneath the suit. Down here, it feels a little bit more like a solid plastic. The cowl, I guess, in theory, you could take off. I don't really know why you would want to. He's got his movie bat logo, which some people did not care for, those additional little fins on the side. I was impartial to it, really. The Returns suit would make this much more angular, much more straight, and more like straight out squares and whatnot. But back in the day, for the '89 Batman, it was much more like regular musculature there in his torso. He's got, of course, his yellow utility belt. Generally a matte looking figure. I just keep moving his cape out of the way here. Generally like a matte painted figure, although his gloves, for example, are a little bit more of a higher sheen. You can see how it reflects a little bit more when the light's hitting off of it. The bat boots, again, get the cape out of the way, the bat boots are accurate to the way they look in the film. He's kind of got these cover guards over top of his shoes, which I guess is my one of two issues with the figure. What's the other one? Wait for that. Is the fact that the little guards that go over top of his shoes do stick out, unfortunately, a little bit, just because of the way that they are rubber. I guess they couldn't glue these in place because it would impede the articulation on the foot. So as a result, this does stick out a little bit. The other problem I have with the figure is I understand Michael Keaton's generally a relatively short actor. No offense to Michael Keaton and no offense to short people. But proportionally, it seems like he's a short figure as well. He has a really large head and doesn't seem like he has the proper body to suit the size of his head. Like looking at the figure, it does look like the head would have belonged to, not necessarily, like this is a 7-inch tall figure. I would even say like the head would have suited a figure that was maybe a half an inch taller or even almost an inch taller. Like proportionally, it seems like his head is too big for the rest of his body. That's one thing I think I see when I'm looking at the figure. Of course, he's got the NECA diapers, which is something that many collectors spotted, especially some of the newer figures, is that they're known kind of for the diaper lower torso. It's just really to conceal the fact that there's articulation points underneath all of that. Speaking of articulation, let's go ahead and run through that right now. Batman does have articulation, but unfortunately it does mean when you are rotating the head that unfortunately the whole cowl has to kind of go for the ride. The lower torso, or the lower half of his torso, does have articulation. The articulation point, just move his arms out of the way here, is actually right there. And that's basically what's allowing this whole top half basically sitting on top of a ball joint, allowing the torso to be able to move back and forth relatively free until you start twisting it back and forth, and then it seems to want to get really hung up around the utility belt. The arms go forward and back. They also go out, not by much, unfortunately. Bend at the elbow, and they also rotate at the forearm. They also rotate and hinge back and forth on the hand. The legs split out. They go forward, they go back. He has a swivel on the lower half of his leg, which also allows the knee bend happening right there. And he also has a foot hinge and an ankle pivot back and forth. So really, even though this is a slightly older figure, Batman has all the much needed articulation that one would hope that a Batman figure should possess. It's just a real shame. Granted, yes, NECA has to kind of work around their legal issues with when it comes to what licensings they're able to acquire. Likely, this was a case where, again, they were celebrating 25th anniversary. I think it was the 25th anniversary of Batman. They included the DVD, and then it was available to certain markets where they were able to kind of get around the idea that the licensing was being done by another company. I don't know if the licensing will open up yet again, that maybe we'll eventually start seeing future Batman figures. NECA's kind of teasing us here and there where we are getting Batman's like coming with like Predator, for example. We're getting an SDCC version of Batman that's going to come include with Predator. Maybe the licensing will be made available that we can get an expansion onto this initial core figure with, like I said, a Jack Nicholson Batman, or Jack Nicholson Joker from Batman, a Penguin and Catwoman, and most definitely as well a Batman Returns Batman to go along with this one. You know, for its age, and by saying age, I don't necessarily mean that this figure is over a decade old, is even like half that. But for its age, actually, this Batman still holds up well in its sculpt and overall execution of articulation. It was kind of at the point where NECA Toys started shifting their focuses and giving us more highly articulated figures, a standard that they still keep to this day. In all honesty, I actually thought I had sold this Batman. So you can imagine my excitement level was pretty high when I opened up my tote looking for one thing and ultimately found the 89 Batman sitting at the bottom of the tote. Good for that. The fact that I didn't actually sell it. Oh, I would have regretted that so much. At any rate, though, still to this day, I find this Batman holds up well. I would debate for the fact that this is probably the best likeness of Batman. Sure, anybody could really say Hot Toys does things better with spot-on likenesses, highly articulated details, and really cool levels of accessories. But NECA does it just as well for sometimes a less of a price. You also benefit from the fact that this is a 7-inch tall figure, which, again, I have to say that this guy was also released in a quarter scale. In all honesty, though, I sold the quarter scale Batman, and I'm really glad that I didn't sell the 7-inch. Say what you want about quarter scale. I don't think there's anything necessarily wrong with quarter scale. It's just for the fact that for space, and sometimes that's the thing I'm most limited by, I just don't have the afforded space to be able to put out quarter scale figures. For their footprint space, you could easily put 2 or 3 or 5 of the smaller 7-inch figures. So really, I'm all for 7-inch figures. Again, I'm not taking necessarily anything away from quarter scale, so if you like quarter scale, all the power to you. Again, I really hope that this is a property that NECA is going to come back and approach. Superheroes are often a really fine line that you have to tread because so often at times it's covered by another companies. Companies that really should have let go of the properties a long time ago still continue to produce superhero figures. I know Batman and stuff like that are going to be moving their way over to McFarlane Toys. So it really will be interesting to see what McFarlane Toys has licensing for and what eventual figures we'll start seeing coming out from that company. But in the meantime, I'm really happy, though, the fact that I didn't sell 89 Batman and I was able to do a re-review of this guy for you guys. Let me know down below if you have this figure, or maybe if you had him at one point and ultimately sold it. That does suck, doesn't it? When you sell off a whole bunch of stuff thinking that you don't really need it anymore, and boy, oh boy, do you ever have seller's remorse after the fact. But if you ever had this figure before or after, maybe you picked him up later on, or just based on this review and this review alone, let me know what you guys think of the 89 Michael Keaton Batman from the folks over at NECA Toys. Like I said, guys, at the beginning of this review, I'm going to do my best to kind of go back and look at some of the figures that I had done in previous years and just kind of give them a fresh coat of paint. It's a fresh perspective, if you will. So for those who have been asking over the many years of watching, thank you for doing that, by the way. If I am going to be going back and having a look at said figure again, rest assured I'm going to try to do my best, sprinkling in there, here and there, with the newer figures that are coming out to the market. I'm going to try to go back and have a look at some of my older figures as well. Going to try to do the best of both worlds for this year and the many years moving forward. As always, guys, thanks for watching as you always do. If you haven't done so already, or you're new to this channel, or maybe a long-time viewer, hit that subscribe button down below if you haven't done so already, and turn on your bell notifications, as future videos will be coming soon to this channel. Thanks for watching, guys, and I'll see you guys next time.